showing them that we can provision an environment, 0 to everything in 15 minutes.
So I'm Bill Peterson. I work for MapR, which is a big data software company, and that's all I'm going to say about that. As James talked about, I'm going to talk about basically 3 themes: focus, openness, and community, and how we kind of ended up there. And it was very accidental, as James mentioned. We didn't plan any of this. It would be nice to stand up here and say, you know, hey, we're this brilliant little startup that planned all this and it was fantastic. Not the case, so I'm going to tell you the truth here. So openness, number 1. So the first thing is, when we're thinking about community and to get to community, you know, 2 general buckets, right? What I'm calling pissed and what I'm calling engaged. And I realize I'm in the UK and pissed means drunk, and I almost changed it, but then I thought, it's a beer conference. Some of you may be well on your way, so I hope to be after this. But really, you boil it down to, why do people react? What's the human nature behind it? Why do they get emotional, right? Why do we bring emotion into tech? And especially when we get to community and a community effort, they're angered, they're upset about something, or they're really engaged and they want to be involved. And we'll go through a couple of high-level layers on what some of that involvement is in a couple of slides. Way oversimplified, I realize, but if you think about your last interaction on a community or directly with a vendor, I would argue you were probably in one of these buckets, right? Because you wouldn't have engaged or done it unless you cared. And that's really what it comes down to. So the first thing I want to talk about on focus is this notion of the App Store or the app galleries, or call it whatever you like, right? And there are some extremely wildly successful ones out there. You know, the Apple and the Android ones come immediately to mind, right? They just work. And then there's, you know, companies like MapR and others where, you know, we've created an app store and we had grand visions for it. You know, this is going to be where everybody comes, and it is going to be a great technical repository. Yeah, sure is, right? So some other great technical things, right? The sock puppet, remember him, right? When I started thinking about this, I thought, I want to find some things that didn't really work and kind of use that as an example. And I had forgotten all about that damn little puppet, right? But he was everywhere for a burst of time, and I bet they spent a bloody fortune on it. Gone, right? Didn't work. Google Glass, of course. I don't know if you can see it, but on the bottom left is Microsoft Bob. Anybody remember? You do! Oh my God! So let me just read this because I can't even see it on my screen. Introducing hard-working, easygoing software everyone will use. That's what I call breathless marketing right there, right? I couldn't, I mean, maybe I've drank it away, but I could not remember Microsoft Bob. And the other one over there that looks like a hole in a field is the field portal, right? Remember when the field portal was going to save, you know, everything, and we'd be able to find all of our information, and the sales force would stop bothering us, and they just go to the field portal. I couldn't really find a good picture of it, but I thought a big hole in a field, well, there you go. That's a field portal. So this is all interesting until we get to the data, right? Or until you bring the data in, then it gets even more interesting. So one of the things I like to say are, problems are just opinions until you bring the data in. And then we get past opinions. And this is our top 20 from our app store. And the top one, if you can't read it, is OpenTSDB. Anybody? Time series database. So there's 2. So if I take 620 minus 2, so 618, this is page views, and that's not K, that's not M, that's 620, okay? And as James mentioned, that's not downloads either, people. I said page views. So it goes down through some of our partners, and you'll see, you know, Splunk, Informatica, et cetera, like a whole list of names you know here. But we thought we had a problem before, but that was just an opinion. The data shows me that there's a problem. These are not impressive numbers by any means, right? Would we all agree? Excellent. So, why? The question becomes why. Well, one of the reasons why is our App Store, like a lot of companies that aren't going to put the resources that an Apple or an Amazon or an Android put into the App Store, is a self-service model, right? So the companies, the partners, the developers, you folks come on in and you fill out a form, and it goes to me or somebody else, and we read it kind of while like we read all the other email. You skim every other line and go, yeah, sure, what the heck, put it up. They get their logo on our website, and off we go. Well, that's interesting. However, the problem is who's doing the work, right? So very often what happens is the person on the left here, the marketing person, is filling out the form. The person on the right, the developer, and I did not do the popcorn on purpose thinking about the popcorn here, it just worked out that way, is not filling out the form, right? The developer, the person who understands the code, who is writing the blurb that's going to show up on the App Store that is going to get other developers interested, is generally not the person who's writing that text. So there's an immediate and complete disconnect right away as we try and make it effective and have other developers want to join in and be part of the App Store, be part of the gallery. That's problem number one. Problem number two is who governs. And I don't know if you can see that, but I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but it's Mutrale. And it is a toilet search engine in India. This is a real submission that we received, and I remember I got it in my email and thought, well, I've never been to India, this is for India. I imagine if I was there, I probably would find this app very useful. I don't know that my customers and my partners are going to find it very useful, but is that an absolute? I'm a marketer, right? So I am now not only the one writing these submissions and submitting them on an app store, but I'm the one governing it and saying yes or no, it's valid. This is kind of an extreme example. I think I was okay in saying no to this one, that, you know, having an Indian-based toilet search engine on our app store was probably not going to be in the top, you know, it certainly wasn't going to supplant OpenTSDB, I don't think, on our list. So we found ourselves with the App Store just happening. There was nothing terribly exciting about it. It was happening. Complete side project, and this is where we move from focus to open, is that we decided to do something completely different as a company, not related to the App Store at all. But this is how we ended up there. And what we did was we opened our on-demand training. So our on-demand training used to be, like a lot of companies, a cost center, right? We would develop the courses, we put them out there, we try and get you to either come to our offices or take it on, or the on-demand part, come online, give us thousands of dollars and take the course. And we said, the heck with that. We're going to be open from an openness point of view. We're not going to try and chase this rabbit. It's not our business model. Our business model is to sell enterprise software. We're going to open it up, and it's a nice community thing to do. We had no idea on the response, right? This is one of those wonderful times when you do something and the response is just overwhelming. And you can see some of the numbers here on page visits, and I use page visits on purpose here because if you remember back to my App Store, right, the top one was 620, I think the bottom one was in the teens or so. You know, we're averaging in the 250,000 page visits. Another very interesting one down the bottom, registered users, like 46,000 people have decided that this is cool. That's a big number, right? How many people before I came in this room knew who MapR was? So not many, there was maybe 10. But there were 46,000 people who showed up, said we're interested, we care, we're pissed or we're engaged. And this was just amazing to us. We certainly didn't expect it, right? It was wonderful. It's one of those nice problems to have kind of things. And then you can see in the month of December, there's 14,000 new users and 6,000 plus new registrations. So the numbers are impressive, and it's very interesting. But then we go the next level down, and here again, do we have a problem or not? Let's look at the data. And what the data shows us here, and the number I just want to focus on is, for the December number, 7,000 registrations, 4,200 active students, 9,700 hours of online. You're speechless, right? You kind of sit around and you look at the numbers every day and you're like, this is so cool. But, there's always a but, right? We're going to get to the but. But it made me think of, in my head, when I was looking at these numbers, you probably remember, right at the beginning of e-commerce, IBM, I think, is the IBM guy still here? Yeah. Had this brilliant television commercial that showed these people all huddled around the computer, and they had just put up their e-commerce site. I'm seeing some nodding out there, right? And the orders start coming in. And at 1, they're all excited. At 2, they're high-five. And at 12, they're hugging. And then it immediately jumps up to 1,000. And then it goes to 12,000. And the happiness goes to sheer terror, right? We hadn't quite hit sheer terror yet, right? We were still in the kind of happy phase. This one's probably hard to see, but what I wanted to show here was the very first one on the far left is basically our Hadoop 101 class. That's the intro, hey, I want to know. You would imagine that would be higher. But here's the really interesting one. All the rest of them are either administration or developer classes. So these are you folks who are out there actually using Hadoop and big data and coming in and taking the classes. And if you add all those up, it gets pretty darn close to the overall number. So again, this is all goodness until we went to our CEO and said, hey, isn't this cool? And he said something to the effect of, we have these 40,000 something new people that have shown up. What are we doing for them? And we all said, because back to the data. The data shows that the majority of the people who showed up were developers and engineers. What did we not want to do to them? And I think it was on here. What we didn't want to do was nurture them, because what does that mean? Nurture them means sell to them. And that would have been a mistake, right? You guys don't want to be sold to, right? You want to come and talk and figure out problems and be seen as an expert in some cases. You don't want to be sold to. So we said, shit, we're in trouble. We have to do something. What was that something? We talked about focus with the App Store. We talked about openness with opening up the on-demand training. Now we said, we're going to build a community around these people. Right? Build a community, an open community, and talk to them about the product, talk to them about the implementation, talk to them about support, Q&A, all the things that you want in a community. We're going to go ahead and do that. There's only one problem with this as well. To quote Bare Naked Ladies, right? It's all been done before, right? So this is nothing terribly new or terribly exciting. However, in the notion of openness, what we intend to do here is make this community open to everyone. So to our competition, to anybody who wants to come in, which is kind of the hook that we're looking at of saying, well, if we're going to continue down this open track and open up the training and keep it open, which we're well above 50,000 people now that have shown up, and we want to talk to these people as a community, we can't exclude anybody. And a lot of communities have some competitive exclusion parts to them. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to throw that part away. But we had to think about it, and we wanted to think about it from the developer engineering mindset. So, here on this continuum, what's important to a developer? I've got GitHub, I've got Slack, I've got Facebook and Twitter. Down here is email, and then way over here, and actually, it should probably be over here, right, is a vendor's community. And we wanted to be sensitive to that, right? And this is probably way oversimplified, I get that as well. So while we're developing this, the why community part, we want to be very sensitive to how we develop this and how we get to it, because these are some of the things that are important in in the building of the community when we look at it from the developer engineer angle, right? Want to be the expert. You want to be seen as an expert. You want to help people out. Maybe you want to get hired, right? Let's be honest. The reason you've joined this community is you're looking for a job. Some of you here today, that may be the reason you showed up here today. You're trying to network to find a job. Some of it is you want to be seen as the bug fix human. I was going to say guy, the bug fix human. And some of it is, you really are engaged with the product. And we want to endorse that and bring that forward. But we're also going to do a reality check here. And from a statistics point of view, right, 1% of visitors will register to join a community, right? So we've got 50,000 people hanging around. One of them might actually go to that, 1% might actually go to that next step and join. Sobering, right? So here we get to some sobering numbers for us, right? 15% who register, so 15% of that 1% are going to actually contribute. 20% will still be around in 6 months, meaning the rest of them are going to never do it again. And the one I like the most, or don't like the most, kind of warped, but I appreciate, 33,333 equals one active participant. So if you do the math on the 46,000, that means my little community is going to be 14 people. Right? But if they're 14 good people, right, we're kind of in the game, so to speak. From the gamification of communities, right? How many people still care about their mayorships on Foursquare or their clout score? So, all right, a couple of brave souls, right? The rest of you are damn liars. Gamification is a big piece of this, right? You want your badges, you want your expertise rank, right? Why are you going to do it if you're not seen as an expert in your field, and whatever that field is? And gamification becomes a piece of that. So we're going to look at the gamification angle as well. And then, why do you do this that goes beyond just a simple Q&A? So a lot of communities out there in this space are just Q&A, or they're answer communities. That's all they are. We want to kind of go beyond that. We want to make sure that we bolt some things onto it. And I want to point out that first bullet. People look for information far less frequently than they look to satisfy social needs. Well, if you think about that and go back 2 slides or 3 slides to my list of why people join communities, complete opposite of why people join communities. So this is not an exact science that we're dealing with. And by the way, that's pulled from the book Hooked. Anybody read the book Hooked? Wonderful book. Take a look at it. It's on product development if you haven't taken a look at it. The last comment I want to make here is on the second bullet on the bottom. I'm in the big data space, and people constantly tell me, and I hear internally, that we have trouble finding data scientists. They're hard to find, hard to hire. Let me tell you, a community manager is even harder to find and hire. So if you're bored developing, go be a community manager somewhere. And finally, where do we end up? So this is all active. So we are in the midst of this. We just opened up the on-demand training last year, and we're now moving to this. So we've hired the community manager. We've bought the platform. We're developing this, and we're going to do a big splash with it. Is it going to work? We don't know, right? I harken back to it's all been done before, but we're looking at our side project of on-demand training, opening it up, making it available to everybody, and turning that into a community. And I'd be happy to report back on that at a future date and let you know, very frankly, where we ended up and where we succeeded and where we failed. Thank you very much.